Welcome to the Wife Stories YouTube channel. New video every day, and don't forget to subscribe. Here we go.
My hand is clenched so tight my nails sink into the flesh of my palm. I can't stop the shaking. There's blood, not much, just small crescent marks where my nails cut the skin. It stings, but I don't uncurl my fingers. Not yet. That dull pain is something to hold on to, more reliable than the swarm of thoughts buzzing in my head. I press harder. The sting flares, throbs. My forearm cramps. Good. At least it's real. At least it reminds me I'm alive in the middle of all this madness. I remember the first video I saw, or stumbled upon. There was no search. It came up out of nowhere. I'd been scrolling idly, another night lost in mindless online wanderings, when the recommendation feed showed me a thumbnail. A figure in lacy stockings. Clicking on it was almost unconscious, like scratching an itch. Then the screen came to life. A woman in black sheer lingerie, garters gripping her thighs, a look of pleasure on her face. The camera panned, and I saw her eyes. My wife's eyes. I didn't breathe. I swear my heart stopped. Emily's mouth parted in a moan. Except it didn't sound like her. It was too theatrical, too choreographed. She was using some made-up name in the text overlaid on the video, calling herself Lana or some nonsense. But it was her. The curve of her waist, the subtle scar near her hip I recognized from that time. She fell off her bike at 14. All of it laid bare for some anonymous audience. For me. For everyone. I let the video finish. Then I clicked the next. And the next. There were dozens, 57. I eventually counted, each more explicit than the last. Different lingerie, different sets, different men's hands on her body. Nothing left to imagination. I felt a band tighten around my chest. My eyes ached from not blinking. Even the dryness of my mouth was overshadowed by the raw suffocation inside my gut. Yet I kept watching. I had to see them all. My wife in stockings, letting men kiss her neck, run their fingers down her thighs. My wife, arching her back, calling them by name, or letting them call her by some pet name. My wife, who always told me she was too shy for anything remotely adventurous. My wife, who looked right at the camera with a half-smile that I never once saw at home. I watched everything until the sun started to rise. Then I sat there in the flickering light of the screen, feeling the numbness burrow deep into my bones. She was asleep in our bedroom. Peaceful, presumably. Probably dreaming of more thrilling ways to degrade what I thought was ours alone. I swallowed the metallic taste in my throat. There was a hollowness in my chest, like my rib cage had been scooped out. So I clenched my fist. Drove my nails in. It was the only thing that helped me feel anything besides disbelief. That next night, I didn't confront her. She was in bed, phone in hand. I stood in the doorway, silent. She didn't notice me, or pretended not to. My mind was already racing ahead, making plans. I would not break things. I would not throw plates or scream like some betrayed, hysterical fool. No, I was going to reflect it all back at her, show her what it feels like. Maybe that's cruelty. Maybe it's justice. I needed to see it with my own eyes. See her face twist with fear or guilt. And so I waited. The next day, I caught her on the balcony, phone pressed to her ear. She was speaking in that breathy tone I'd heard in the videos. Yes, baby. Yeah, you like that? Maybe next time. She giggled, a sweet, girlish giggle that I hadn't heard in years directed at me. I lifted my own phone, pressed record, steadied my shaking arm. The camera zoomed in on her lips moving, her eyes half-lidded with desire. I wanted to vomit, but I kept filming. She ended the call, gave a quick glance around, as if making sure no one overheard. The guilt, or maybe the thrill, painted her cheeks pink. At work, I couldn't concentrate. My body ached. My head pounded. People spoke to me. I nodded, gave them polite acknowledgments. On my breaks, I scrolled through those damned videos again, memorizing the angles, the expressions, The close-ups of her parted lips, the way she moaned some other man's name. Part of me felt sick that I was subjecting myself to it again. Another part needed the pain to confirm everything. It was real. I wasn't imagining it. That evening, I followed her to the parking lot of the local shopping plaza, where I'd installed a small dash cam in my old car. I parked a few rows away. I watched. She met him near the far corner, a place with no security cameras. The man was shorter than me, slender. He had a quick, darting way of moving around her, leaning in for a kiss. And she kissed him. No hesitation. The dash cam got it all. I saw the angle of her head tilt back as their lips met, the casual intimacy in the way she rested a hand on his shoulder. The door was slightly open, and their bodies pressed together so intimately that anyone passing by would think they were a couple. My teeth ground so hard I thought I'd crack a molar. Back at home, she was cooking dinner, acting normal. "How was your day?" she asked, like always, stirring sauce in a pan. I laid my phone on the table silently, showed her the screenshot of them kissing. I said nothing. She froze, her eyes flicking from the phone to me. Then she tried to speak, but I held up a hand. My palm still had a faint red scab from where I'd dug my nails in. I just watched her. She stuttered. "That's not. I can explain." I didn't answer. I turned around and walked upstairs, left her in the silence. In my mind, I was repeating an order. Don't speak. Don't rage. Don't give her the satisfaction of seeing you broken. She followed me eventually, but I locked the bedroom door. I heard her press her forehead against the wood, heard her subdued breathing. She never once apologized properly. She only tried to rationalize. "I need to talk to you. Please, just let me talk." I closed my eyes, leaning on the other side of the door. The tension in my back flared like a hot knife under my shoulder blade. My entire torso ached in that moment, but I stood firm until I heard her footsteps retreat. The next morning, I set a cup of coffee on the counter for her as usual, next to a small printed photo. She hesitated, picking it up. It was a grainy shot of her in black lingerie, leaning over a sofa, obviously from one of her secret streams. She almost dropped it. Her face went pale. She looked at me. I just smiled, a tight, bloodless curve of my lips, and walked away. She called after me. "We need to talk. Don't just, Jim, please." But I kept going. Every day, I gave her a new piece of evidence, a short clip on her phone via text, a recorded voice memo of her telling someone how weak and too kind her husband was, or a still image of her parted lips, obviously faking the moan for the camera. Each time, I left her with no explanation, just the evidence. Let her stew in it. At night, the physical pain spread. My shoulders locked up. My stomach was a churning pit. Sleep refused to come. I lay on my side, staring at the shadow her body cast in the dark, the subtle rise and fall of her chest. My mind conjured the sight of her pressed against him, or them, or whoever else had staked a claim on her. I clenched my fists under the covers, felt the nails dig in again. She was less than a foot away, and yet the distance between us felt like an uncrossable canyon. One evening, she came into the living room, found me sitting there with a blank stare aimed at the black TV screen. "Jim." Her voice trembled. Let's take a break. Both of us. Maybe we need space. You're not talking to me. And we can't keep living like this." I nodded without turning. A pause. A break. I repeated, just to hear how empty it sounded. She started to cry, or tried to. I didn't move to comfort her. My heart hammered, but my face felt numb, detached from any compassion. She swallowed and left the room. I exhaled, the breath scraping my throat, my muscles ready to spasm from tension. My mind whirled with images, her in that black lace, the lover's mouth on her collarbone, the final moment in one of those videos where she fake gasped and whispered, "Oh, you're so much more of a man than my husband." I closed my eyes. I think I'd bit through the inside of my cheek, because I tasted blood. Days passed in a haze. She moved out of the bedroom to the guest room, stuffed a suitcase with clothes. She said something about staying at a friend's place. Fine. I thought. Let her. Meanwhile, I kept collecting more fragments of evidence, building a private folder. Some of it I'd found by hacking her phone. Some of it from her cloud backups. All those pictures, messages, videos. Part of me wanted to unleash it on the world, to ruin her. But I still wasn't sure if I wanted to blow everything up or tighten the screws further. My body ached worse every day. There was a constant pinch in my lower back, radiating up my spine. Maybe psychosomatic, maybe a real injury from the tension. I'd wake up feeling like I'd been beaten. But I never said a word to her. She tried to approach me once or twice, but I just stared through her. Let her suffer the silence she deserved. I discovered the next act quite by chance. I was driving home from work, turning onto our street, when I saw her standing at our front door, next to her suitcase. She must have come back earlier than planned. She looked smaller somehow, her shoulders slumped under the porch light. I killed the engine and walked up. She tried to speak, but I held out my phone, pressed the voice recorder. Repeat what you said about me. The part where I'm too kind, too weak. She blinked, tears already forming at the corners of her eyes. What? I tapped the screen. Say it. I want to hear it again, clearly, so I can save it. My voice was so steady, so unnaturally calm, that it scared me a little. She flinched. Jim, I didn't mean it. It was just. I was just. Say it. My expression didn't change. My nails dug into the phone. Tell me how I'm too soft, too stupid, too trusting. She bowed her head. A tear fell onto her suitcase. She mumbled something incoherent. I stepped closer, pressed record again. Do it. Now. Her shoulders shook. I said you were too kind, too soft, that you'd never. Oh God. She swallowed back a sob. But I was lying. I swear I was lying. I was just telling him what he wanted to hear. I ended the recording, slipped the phone back in my pocket. My teeth clenched so hard my jaw trembled. Get inside, I said, stepping aside. I'll open the door. Inside, the house smelled stale, as if it had been vacant for months, not just a few days. I flicked on the lights. She stood near the couch, hugging herself. That's when I noticed the bruises under her eyes from lack of sleep, the dryness of her lips. She looked at me and whispered, "Are you going to say anything? Anything real? Because I've been dying inside, Jim. You don't speak. You don't yell. You don't even." I made a short, sharp sound, half laugh, half scoff. Dying inside, huh? My voice was cold. You sure you know what that feels like? She bowed her head again, said nothing. I stared at her left hand, noticing she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. My stomach clenched. Good. Let her have that symbolic honesty. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. A text. From a number I'd seen on her contact list. Hey babe, are you free tonight? She recognized it too. Her eyes widened, face twisting in panic. Don't answer him, she pleaded. I gave her a slow, deadpan grin. I won't, I said softly, slipping the device back in my pocket. He's all yours. She tried to reach for me, a pathetic attempt to rest her fingers on my arm. I recoiled. Don't, I hissed. You've made your choice. Go live it. She sank onto the couch, face in her hands, shoulders shaking. I watched for a while, numb. No tears rose in me. All I felt was the dull throbbing in my back, traveling up the spine, making my temples pound. I said, "You wanted a break. Now you got it." She sobbed, but I'd run out of pity for her tears. I turned and walked down the hallway, half expecting her to chase me. She didn't. Later that night, I went onto the balcony with my phone, the same spot where she used to have those private calls, The same vantage point from which I once recorded her cooing into the receiver. "Yes, baby, I miss you." I stood leaning against the railing, letting the cold air numb my face. My body shivered, the muscles in my arms and chest screaming from tension. I took slow, deliberate breaths, ignoring the wave of dizziness that threatened to make me collapse. I played back a few choice clips. Her voice, her laugh, her moans in bed with that lover. Then I opened my camera gallery, scanning through the images of her with him near the car, the shots I took from behind the curtains. Each moment felt like a spike hammered into my gut. But I needed it. A twisted, punishing necessity. I let the phone's screen go dark eventually, the reflection of my own eyes fading. I spat over the railing, clearing the bitterness from my mouth. On the weekend, I did something I never used to do. I went to a sporting goods store and looked at handguns. The clerk asked if I needed help, and I said no, just browsing. But my mind was spinning with images of retribution, illusions of final answers to the turmoil inside my chest. I left the store empty-handed that day, but I returned the following week. This time, I bought one, a small concealed carry pistol. That first night, I took it out of its case in the garage, turned it over in my hands, marveled at how something so compact could hold such finality. I imagined using it on him, or on me. Both. I pictured the scenario 1,000 ways. The tension in my body spiked so violently that my hands cramped. My fingernails again bit into my palm, causing fresh welts. I breathed in and out, fighting back a wave of nausea. Then I locked it away in the toolbox. She came back again about a week later, standing in the driveway with a single suitcase. Her hair was unkempt, no makeup, eyes puffy. She saw me in the doorway and dropped the suitcase. "Jim, I have nowhere else to go. I messed up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She took a shaky step forward. "It was all a mistake. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to feel alive, wanted attention, wanted." I stared at her. My heart was pounding in my ears, so loud I thought she might hear it. She approached, arms outstretched. I took a step back. "You sure I'm not too kind and weak to handle your truths?" The words came out with a sneer. She clutched at my shirt. I let her fingers grip the fabric, but I didn't reciprocate. She sank to her knees on the stoop, tears streaking her cheeks. "I love you. I do," she whispered, voice trembling. I was stupid. Please, let me come home. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll delete everything. I'll block him. All of them. Please, I can't live like this anymore." I studied her face, watched her mouth form the words. Then I lifted my gaze to the empty street behind her. The air was cold. Gray clouds overhead. I felt a hollow calm spreading through me, like a deep pool of ice water. I reached behind me, into my waistband, and pulled out the gun. Her eyes went huge, tears frozen in place. She covered her mouth. "Jim." I let the muzzle point downward for a moment. The weight of the metal in my hand felt both terrifying and clarifying. "This was never for you," I said quietly. She started trembling. I raised the gun so it aligned with my own temple, just enough that she could see. It was for me. Time seemed to stop. She looked ready to scream, but no sound came out. My fingers hovered on the trigger. My entire body was one knot of pain and fatigue. The months of betrayal, the sleepless nights, the swirling confusion coalescing into an all-consuming ache. I pressed my lips together, trying not to let my voice shake. She sobbed, "No, God, no. Don't do it. Please, please." She crawled closer, tried to touch my arm. I stepped away. "Don't you dare," I growled. Her hand froze in the air, fingertips trembling. I stared at her for a few seconds. "You lost access," I finally said, voice barely above a whisper. "You lost access to me, my thoughts, my pain, my love, my bullet. You have no place in me anymore." I lowered the gun. I stared down at the muzzle, then calmly engaged the safety, slid it back into my waistband. She choked on a sob, shaking her head. "I'll do anything," she gasped. "Anything." A thin smirk tugged at my lips. I felt something inside me shift, like a door slamming shut. "You can't give me back what you took," I said. "You can't fix it." No more words. I stepped aside, giving her room to crawl into the house. She did, stumbling forward, tears falling on the threshold. I stared at her trembling form for a second. Then, unexpectedly, a wave of numb amusement washed over me. She had always liked dramatic gestures, showy pleas for forgiveness. Now she was on her knees, sobbing like a penitent saint in some old painting. But the sincerity was overshadowed by the images scorched into my mind. Her body writhing under another man's hands, her lips parted, calling his name. All for a crowd of strangers. Without a word, I walked past her, into the living room. She followed, crawling on hands and knees for a moment until she found the strength to stand. "Jim, don't speak," I said over my shoulder, my voice so flat it startled even me. "I'm done listening to you." She swallowed hard, but the words poured out anyway. "I know I don't deserve anything, but I swear I'll make it right. Please, let me show you." She tried to reach out again. My body went rigid. I turned so abruptly my back twinged, sending a jolt of pain through me. I grimaced and grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. She noticed my wince and tried to move closer, probably thinking it was her chance to help. "Stop," I hissed. She froze. I sank onto the chair, feeling the dull ache in my spine spread. "I'm empty, Emily," I murmured, half to myself. "There's nothing left for you to cling to." She stood there, arms limp at her sides, tears trailing down her cheeks. Her chest rose and fell in panicked gasps. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly, forcing the tension in my jaw to release. Then, after a moment of silence, I pulled out my phone, opened the gallery, and scrolled to a close-up shot. Her and him, locked in an unmistakably explicit position, her face contorted in pleasure. I showed it to her. Her lip quivered. She looked away. I turned the phone so she had to face it again. "This is what you did," I said. "You let someone film you like this. Actually, you filmed it yourself, for money, for attention. Whatever your excuse is, now you're here, begging." My voice cracked, a slight waver. I caught myself and steadied my tone. "It's done. Everything I thought we had is dead." She sank onto the sofa, hugging a pillow, sobbing into it. I felt my chest constrict painfully. A headache hammered behind my eyes. The overshadowing wave of betrayal pulsed in every nerve. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to lash out and smash everything in sight. Instead, I just stared blankly at the wall, the gun's weight tugging at my waistband, reminding me that I still had that final card to play if the darkness got too overwhelming. She tried once more to speak. "Let me at least talk to you properly, Jim, even if you don't forgive me." I cut her off, my voice rising. "You want me to record you again. Is that it? So you can put on another performance?" I gestured with my phone. "Go on, talk. Let's see if you can say anything that erases those images from my head." She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her eyes flickered with pain or shame. So I stuffed the phone back into my pocket and walked away, heading to the bedroom, leaving her sobbing. The next morning, I found her rummaging in the kitchen. She looked drained, as if she hadn't slept all night. "I made coffee," she said softly, pointing to the mug on the counter. I didn't answer. I took my own mug, ignoring hers. I took a sip, wincing at the bitterness. A tension headache pounded behind my forehead. My entire back felt like one coiled muscle spasm. She hesitated near me, as if wanting to speak. Finally, she said, "There's nothing left for me to do but leave, right? I can't stay here and watch you hate me. I just need to pack my things and—" "You go where you want," I said. "It doesn't matter." I turned to put the mug in the sink. She lingered behind me. Then her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, glanced at the screen. I caught a glimpse of his name, Justin. That stoked the embers of my fury again. "He's waiting?" I asked, voice flat. She quickly locked her phone. "No, I blocked him, I swear." I just let out a soft exhale, disbelieving. I set the cup down. "You want to go to him, or whoever else. Doesn't matter." I walked out of the kitchen. She followed, calling my name, but I headed straight to the door. I needed fresh air, or I'd lose my mind. Outside, I felt the cold wind cut through my shirt. My spine flared with pain, and I took a moment to stretch, trying to ease the cramped muscles. My breath fogged in front of me. I could see her silhouette through the living room window, pacing, holding her head in her hands. Everything about her, from that anxious posture to the tear-streaked cheeks, reminded me how far we'd fallen. A few months ago, I would have done anything to comfort her. Now, all I could think about was how her lips felt moaning for another man, how her body responded to his touch on camera. A raw wave of disgust, mingled with heartbreak, washed over me. I went to the garage, rummaged around, searching for some anchor, some distraction. My gaze landed on a folded tarp, some empty boxes, a bag of potting soil, and finally the locked toolbox where I kept the gun. My stomach churned. I unlocked the metal box, pulled out the pistol, held it in my hand, remembering how it felt pressed to my temple. The memory made my throat tighten. Something about that possibility gave me a strange sense of control. "No," I muttered under my breath. "Not tonight. Not now." By the time I re-entered the house, the living room was empty. I glanced around. Her suitcase was by the front door. She must have been upstairs. I considered leaving again, just driving off. But some instinct told me to remain. So I stood near the staircase, leaning on the wall, the ache in my back flaring again. I wanted to call a friend, anyone, but the shame was too great. None of them knew. My entire life was unraveling, and I was facing it alone. After a while, she came down, her eyes red. She saw me with the gun in my hand. She froze. I watched her carefully. "Don't worry," I said quietly. "It's not for you." She inhaled shakily. I know," she whispered. "I can see it in your face." I pointed toward the suitcase. "Leaving?" She nodded. I can't pretend anymore. You clearly don't want me here." My lips curled in the faintest hint of a smile. "You don't deserve to be here." She opened her mouth, closed it, then took a step forward, tears trembling on her lashes. "I'm sorry," she breathed. "Truly." "Too late," I murmured. My grip tightened around the gun. I saw her eyes flicker down to it, fear crossing her face. I put it away again, snapping the lock on my toolbox with a precise click. Then I turned back to her. "Get out," I said quietly. "I'm done letting you cling to any piece of me you can salvage." She picked up her suitcase. With trembling fingers, she tried to open the front door. Halfway out, she faltered, turned, her face etched in desperation. If you ever want to talk, if there's ever a chance." I raised a hand, cutting her off. My face was stone. "Goodbye," I said, voice thick with finality. I saw a flicker of heartbreak in her eyes. Then she slipped out, shutting the door softly behind her. A breath rattled out of my lungs. I leaned on the wall again, letting the house swallow me in silence. My head pounded. My arms and chest trembled from the pent-up rage and sorrow. There was a roaring in my ears, like the sound of distant thunder. I realized I was soaked in sweat. Slowly, I slumped to the floor, resting my back against the wall. My breathing was ragged. The dull throbbing in my spine radiated out, pulsing with my heartbeat. I winced, rubbed my lower back. Part of me felt relief that she was gone. Another part felt raw emptiness. I closed my eyes, head drooping to my chest. For a few minutes, I just sat there, letting the exhaustion roll over me. Eventually, I stood, forcing my stiff muscles to comply. The house was painfully quiet. I wandered into the kitchen, opening cupboards, the fridge, looking for anything to fill the void. I found a half-empty bottle of whiskey in the cupboard above the fridge. I never used to drink more than a glass or two socially. But that night, I poured a tall measure into a tumbler, swallowed it down. The burn seared my throat, setting my insides ablaze. My eyes watered. I poured another. Sometime around midnight, I lost track of how many I drank. I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, phone on the surface, the screen bright with old photos, pictures of us at the beach, smiling, selfies at that orchard in the fall, picking apples, our wedding day, her white dress fluttering in the breeze, me in a dark suit, both of us beaming. My eyes stung with tears. I pressed a hand over my mouth, trying not to make a sound. My body shook with silent sobs. The images blurred, and I let the phone slide from my grip onto the table. I must have dozed off, because I woke with a start, the whiskey glass overturned, a cold puddle soaking into my pant leg. My head throbbed worse than ever. I rubbed my eyes. Then I heard the phone buzz. I blinked blearily, tapped the screen to see a text. It was from her. "I'm sorry. I mean it. Don't do anything stupid. Please." I let out a hollow laugh, typed back 3 words. "I'm already gone." Then I turned the phone off. Days blurred together. Work was mechanical. I showed up, did the bare minimum, left. People asked if I was okay, if I was sick. I brushed them off, said I was dealing with back issues, which wasn't entirely untrue. My body felt like it was decaying from the inside out, weighed down by tension and heartbreak. Nights were the worst. I'd pace around the living room, or sit in the dark, listening to the creaks of an empty house. Sometimes I'd watch those cursed videos again, punishing myself, fueling the sick anger. Sometimes I'd watch old home movies of us in better days, twisting the knife deeper into my soul. At one point, my phone vibrated with a new message from the number belonging to her lover. Curious, I tapped it open. A smug note. "Hey man, guess you found out. Sorry it had to be this way. Let her go, all right. She's not worth hurting yourself over." The audacity stunned me. My fingers hovered over the screen, itching to reply, to lash out with every vile insult I could muster. Instead, I locked the phone, tossed it onto the couch. Rage coiled inside my chest, white-hot. My breath hitched. For a moment, I seriously considered going after him with the gun. But a deeper voice inside me whispered that nothing good would come of it. My revenge had to be more controlled. If I stooped to a violent crime, I'd rot in prison. She'd move on, he'd move on, and I'd be the only one trapped. That couldn't happen. Instead, I planned something else. A final statement. I retrieved all the recordings, the images, the moans, the messages. I compiled them carefully. Then, on a flash drive, I saved everything under a single folder labeled Truth. That night, I taped a short letter to the drive. "This is who you really were. This is how you betrayed me. I hope it was worth it." The letter wasn't addressed to her or anyone in particular. Perhaps it was for me. Perhaps for the world. If ever I vanished, if ever I decided to end it all, I'd make sure the truth came out. But as the days went on, a strange transformation happened. My hatred simmered. My fury started to feel stale. I realized I was tired, so very tired of letting her define my every waking moment. The pain in my body was constant, but I started walking it off in the evenings, letting the cold air numb my limbs. I began to see that my revenge was poisoning me. She was gone. I was the one holding the knife to my own throat. One evening, a few weeks later, she returned, unexpectedly, with a suitcase again. The sight of her in the driveway sent a spark of adrenaline through my veins. This time, though, I didn't feel the same white-hot anger. Instead, there was a dull ache and a readiness to end this once and for all. She dragged the suitcase to the porch. I stepped out, blocking the door. She bowed her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "I have nowhere left to go," she whispered. "And I don't want to run anymore. I need to face you, face this." I stared at her. "You think that'll solve something?" She set the suitcase aside, sank to her knees just like before, except this time her voice was calmer. "I need you to know. I know I hurt you more than I can ever fix. I'm begging for a chance to make amends." A bitter laugh escaped my throat. "Amends," I echoed. "You think you can stitch this gaping wound shut? You think you can bring back my pride, my trust?" She pressed her palms to her face, shoulders shaking. "I'll do anything." I studied her for a moment, then took a deep breath, the old tension flaring in my back. "Let's go inside," I said. "We'll talk." She nodded, stood on shaky legs. We entered the house. The place was chilly. I hadn't bothered with the thermostat for days. She shivered. I flicked on a lamp. The minimal glow illuminated her tear-streaked face, her trembling lips. I noticed she'd lost weight. The lines around her eyes were deeper, more pronounced. She started talking, apologizing, rationalizing. She repeated all the typical lines. She felt lonely, neglected, needed excitement, attention. "It was never about love," she said. "I swear, I never loved them. It was a thrill, a stupid, selfish thrill." She paused, exhaling shakily. I see now how twisted it was. I was chasing an illusion. And now I'd give anything to go back in time. I leaned against the wall, arms folded. "But you can't," I said quietly. "There's no undoing this." Her hands twisted in front of her. "So where does that leave us?" The corner of my mouth twitched into a ghost of a smile. "There is no us anymore," I said. "You destroyed that. I'm just a shell. And you're the cause." She nodded, tears slipping down. "I'll bear that for the rest of my life," she whispered. "I deserve it." Something about her broken posture, the sincerity in her tone, made me feel a flicker of pity. But I crushed it. "You came here to get forgiveness?" I asked. She shook her head. "I know I can't force that. I just wanted you to see me. Not who I pretended to be online. Just the real me, miserable and regretful." Silence stretched between us. I felt the ghost of that old love tug at my heart, reminding me of what we once shared. But it was overshadowed by the memory of her with him. All those videos. My back seized up again, a stab of pain that made me wince. I looked away, trying to hide it. She noticed. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. "You're hurting." I barked a short laugh. "Yeah, I'm hurting. Everywhere." I rubbed a hand over my eyes. "You were the one who taught me what pain really is." Her shoulders slumped. "Let me help you. Just, in any small way. Even if we'll never be together again. Let me at least do something right." I thought of the gun locked away, the letter, the drive. I thought of all the hours I spent fueling my anger, plotting some grand revenge. Slowly, I let my arms fall to my sides. "You can't fix me," I said, "but you can stop hovering around like a lost puppy. If you have any remorse at all, you'll leave me with what's left of my pride." She swallowed hard, nodding. "If that's what you want." I exhaled, shoulders trembling. Then I walked over to a chair and sank down. "I want you gone. I want you out of my mind. But I also want to see your face when you tell me how sorry you are. Really, truly." She knelt at my feet, eyes brimming with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice cracking. "I'm sorry I took your peace, your trust, everything that made you the man I loved. I destroyed it, and I can never bring it back." I studied her closely. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe not. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. After a few beats of silence, I nodded. "All right. Enough." I stood. "Take your suitcase. There's no place for you here." She rose on unsteady legs, shoulders caved in. For a second, I almost saw the woman I married. A flicker of her old warmth. but the illusions were shattered. She dragged the suitcase to the door, then turned to me. Her lips parted, but no words came. I gave her a curt nod. She stepped outside. The door clicked shut. An odd sense of relief flooded me, mingled with heartbreak. I pressed a hand to my chest, feeling the rapid thud of my heart. The old ache in my body flared, a final wave of excruciating tension. Then, slowly, like a fist uncurling, a calm set in. I went to the couch, collapsed onto it, stared at the ceiling. My phone buzzed a few times. Notifications, messages. I ignored them. For the first time in what felt like ages, I closed my eyes and breathed in the hush of an empty house. No tears rose to the surface. My mind was a static hum, a quiet numbness. Something deep within me recognized that it was over. The door was shut behind her, and whatever we were was done. She no longer had access. To my mind, to my heart, to my final bullet. Nothing. A smirk, faint but unmistakable, tugged at my lips. In that tiny moment, I realized a strange satisfaction. Maybe it was the knowledge that, despite everything, I'd taken back what mattered most, my own sense of power over my decisions, my life. She couldn't yank me around anymore. She couldn't peel apart my soul. I had that gun, I had that choice, and in the end, I kept it from her. From him. From everyone. I sank further into the cushion, letting my body go limp. Outside, the night settled over the street. I pictured her silhouette vanishing into the darkness. No more demands, no more illusions. Just me, alone with my bruised pride and a battered soul. I breathed in, breathed out. My back still ached, but it felt a shade looser. A fleeting thought drifted by. Perhaps I'd see a doctor tomorrow, finally address the tension. Maybe I'd manage a real night's sleep. The monstrous rage that used to gnaw my insides seemed to be dissolving into the background. I let my eyes close, not exactly at peace, but not drowning either. Eventually, I lifted the corner of my mouth into something that might pass for a smile. It tasted bitter, but it was there, all the same, because everything she took from me, my self-respect, my sense of security, I had, in some measure, reclaimed tonight. In rejecting her final pleas, I'd reaffirmed that she couldn't keep hurting me, couldn't break me further. If there was a bullet left to fire, it was mine to fire, on my terms. In that fragile calm, I drifted into a half-sleep, a shallow doze. My heart was still pounding, my muscles still protesting. But somewhere in that swirl of pain and exhaustion, a single thought lit up like a dying star. I survived. She didn't destroy me completely. And tomorrow, I'd wake up, step outside, maybe drive to some quiet place in the outskirts, breathe fresh air again. One day at a time. Step by step. The digital clock blinked softly in the dimness, the house around me silent as a tomb. The memory of her kneeling, the memory of me pressing the gun to my temple, it all flickered in my mind like a disjointed reel. My pulse slowed. My breath evened out. Then I let the darkness lull me into a restless, but strangely resolute, slumber. I don't know how long I slept. But when my eyes opened again, dawnlight seeped in through the curtains, painting pale lines on the floor. My body felt stiff, my mouth parched. But there was something else, a faint lightness in my chest that hadn't been there before. It wasn't peace, not exactly. Perhaps it was just the absence of constant suffocating tension. I rubbed at my eyes, forced myself to sit up. The images from the previous night rattled around in my skull. The gun, her tears, that final hateful hush. A sigh escaped my lips. Standing slowly, I stretched my arms overhead, wincing at the pull in my muscles. Then I walked over to the window, parted the curtain. Outside, the street was quiet, the morning sun turning the sky from purple to pink. For a moment, I just watched, taking in the ordinary calm. That's when a small, almost imperceptible flicker of hope lit up somewhere deep within my chest. I found my phone on the couch cushion. 7 missed calls, all from her number. I didn't feel the dread I used to. Just a mild annoyance. I powered off the phone, let it drop onto the couch again. In the kitchen, I opened the cupboard, pulled down a fresh mug. I brewed coffee with methodical care, measuring out the grounds, pouring water. The hiss and drip of the machine sounded oddly comforting in the hush. My mind drifted to work, the tasks I'd ignored, the people I needed to contact, the errands I kept putting off. One step at a time, I told myself. As the coffee filled the pot, I leaned on the counter, letting the aroma fill my senses. My back still hurt, a low, persistent ache, but it was better than the piercing agony of before. A scab had formed over the cuts on my palm, a reminder of how fiercely I'd dug my nails in. Gently, I brushed my fingertips over the stiff skin, wincing at the memory. For the first time in a long while, I felt almost human. I realized that, in the end, I'd chosen not to pull that trigger on myself or anyone else. I'd kept the bullet for me, but I refused to let it define me. There might be more heartbreak, more anger, more regret ahead, but that was the future. For now, I allowed myself a slow breath. I took the mug from the coffee maker, inhaled the steam, took a sip. Bitterness spread across my tongue. I closed my eyes. My mind flicked back, just for an instant, to the sight of her kneeling in front of me, suitcase at her side, tears in her eyes, begging for access to my life once again. I swallowed the bitterness. She'd never have access again, no matter how many times she apologized, no matter how real her tears seemed. A faint smirk touched my lips. It was done. A final hush settled over my thoughts. I took another sip of coffee and let that smirk linger, feeling something that might have been the smallest seed of triumph. She was out there somewhere, alone in her regret, or maybe back in the arms of someone else. But it no longer mattered. I had taken everything back that was mine to reclaim. Myself, my pride, my choice. And that morning, in the quiet dawn light, it was enough.